Jason, JROCK Houston, and you're listening to Chaotic Riffs Magazine. Tonight our special guest is Slaughter lead singer Mark Slaughter, and Mark's going to be talking with us today about his upcoming second solo album, which is entitled Halfway There. Welcome to our show tonight, Mark.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Now, I, like a lot of people, have been a huge fan of yours for, I guess, over the last 20 years. I, of course, like many people, Mark, first come to know you from your days with the Vinnie Vincent Invasion, and then Slaughter, into what you're doing now. So talk about, if we could just kind of go back in time, when you and Dana first hooked up in the Vinnie Vincent Invasion. Everybody kind of knows that story, but when you guys formed, left the band, or Vinnie Vincent's band kind of demolished, you and Dana stuck together and you went on to form, Slaughter. Were those songs that you guys had been writing when you were in Vinnie's band, and he just kind of wasn't interested in those songs, and you waited till you had your own band?
No, look, Vinnie had his own. He had his own mind's eye of what he wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And again, the music we do with Vinnie, I still love it, and I still, feel a lot of that stuff today. Mm-hmm. But he had a vision of what he wanted to do, and we wanted to be a band, and we wanted to have songs that were more about guitar, about songs than guitar solos.
Yeah.
And,
makes sense.
And that's kind of, I think that's really where it was with him. That even with Kiss, he really just wanted to play guitar, and it wasn't about the songs. Yeah,
and I think what made a band like Slaughter work so well is, because besides being a great, guitar player, as far as Vinnie goes, he's also, I felt a very underrated, very gifted songwriter. But he only wrote like guitar-based songs where the solo was kind of highlighted. And I think that's why when you guys put out that "Stick It to You" album, so many, it just took off because you and Dana had such a great songwriting chemistry. The songs, they were really rocking, like you said, and that was just a fantastic debut album for a new band, and when in preparation for this interview, I was kind of thinking a couple of years from now, it's coming up on the 20th anniversary of that album.
Yep, exactly. I mean, look, it's all those songs and all that stuff is the natural course of things. Mm-hmm. It was just from our heart. All those songs were written in about 2.5 weeks. And much like even the new thing that I did, there's really, if you write a song, you write a song. Yeah. You let the song have its own, you let it have its personality, and it's not about, hey, let me just shove in, 5 minutes of guitar solo.
Yeah.
I think that you really, it's not about that. It's about what the song asks for. It asks for that when you do it. But, I've always been more about the song and about that, and so is Dana. And certainly the test of time with these songs doing as much as they've done over the years, it really boils down to that's what people want.
Yeah. And I think,
the soundtrack.
It really is, and that's why those songs have lasted, for over 20 years, and it still remain very close to people's heart. And the thing about it is too, like, I think even going back to "Stick It to You," that was the first time you and Dana had a chance to really get in the studio. In the Vinnie Vincent Invasion, you guys are kind of, you're on record, but you were doing his songs. Where when you first formed Slaughter, you guys are kind of getting a chance to kind of branch out, do your own thing, and that's why I think, even especially on "Stick It to You," Mark, that was the first time people really got to hear Mark Slaughter, do his thing.
Right. Well, the Vinnie's, look, I still have a love for it. I still, it's where I came from, and I have a lot of great memories. And again, and we left a footprint with that, but it was Vinnie's songs, and what people don't realize is that Dana and I wrote those songs for Slaughter. Yeah. We were the producer, the writers, the engineers, and we're the only band from our genre that did all that. That really did everything from front to end without any outside, help.
Yeah. And we could talk all day about Slaughter, but I want to talk a little bit about what you're doing these days. Of course, you're still touring around the world with Slaughter, but last several years, you've also been living in Nashville. What's that been like for you?
Right. Well, this is the songwriter capital of the world.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful place to live, and look, it's been great as a songwriter to be here, and I think it's it's been one of those things that has actually helped me in a lot of ways too. To be a better songwriter, and I think that comes forth in a new record. People hear that.
And and then going back to about 2 years ago now, you released your first solo album, which is really another great debut album, Reflections in the Rearview Mirror. Now, going back to June 2015 when that came out, talk a little bit about your decision. Okay, I'm going to finally go in the studio, I think, and do a solo album. What was the decision, to do a Mark Slaughter solo album versus, say, a Slaughter album?
Well, my guys are playing with, they're playing with Vince Neil.
Yeah.
They're busy and they're doing what they do. And again, that's I'm glad that everybody's making music.
Yeah.
But for me, I really wanted, as an artist, I just wanted to go forward and keep making art. I mean, that's really what it boils down to.
Yeah, and I got to say, as a Mark Slaughter fan, what a great what a great first, solo album. And I was glad finally, as a Mark Slaughter fan, okay, finally get some new music out there. So when you went in the studio, you primarily, except for the drumming, you played all instruments, right, Mark?
Yeah, I did. On the first record, this record actually had, I wrote the parts, but I had a gentleman play bass on it, and I also had a friend of mine from high school named Josh Egan.
Okay.
Play drums.
Wow.
So, there's a lot of, kind of a little bit more people working on this one. Not that I needed to, but I really wanted to have more of a band feel on this as opposed to just, this is me.
Yeah. And I'm very excited about the new album coming out May 26th, a new Mark Slaughter solo album. Of course, it's called Halfway There. And I want to talk a little bit about, you're signed to a great new label, EMP label group, which I know, of course, is David Ellison's group. I've heard that you and Dave have been friends for years. So how did you, how did the record deal come about? Did he come to you or did you go to him?
It's just kind of a go-between. There's a gentleman named Tom Hazard, which is who works with Dave, and he's like, I love to hear what you're doing, and I played it for him, and obviously, Dave, he's been on a really great ride on his own, just being a Grammy Award-winning thing with Megadeth.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Great things are happening for him, and I just, we kind of talked, and it was just kind of one of those things of like, hey, this can kind of work, and I know you, and he's a good guy, and he knows me, and I'm not a bullshit artist.
And what I love about a label like that you're on is it's a label that's owned by a guy that's an actual musician, so he's kind of lived the life as opposed to a guy that's just in a suit, never hit the stage or anything or hit the recording studio. And then if you look at the roster of artists that's on there, I mean, you got everything from Mark Slaughter, and then I heard they're also going to have a Kick Tracy Rarity CD come out. They got everything on there, so I think there's a little something on that label for everybody, which is a cool thing. And now this being the second Mark Slaughter solo CD, I got to ask, even though you're still constantly touring with Slaughter, is there any chance we may get some solo shows?
Well, it's one of those things that if there's a demand for it, I'll do a few. It just depends on what happens with it. I mean, my whole thing is obviously Slaughter is where I come from.
Of course.
But, these songs are good songs, and I think that, if there's a demand for it, I will go out and do a few shows.
And it seems like now that you're with EMP label group, that maybe this new album will get a little more of a push than the last one, only because I know the last one you kind of did it on your own.
Yeah, I did on my own, and again, it was a great experience, and again, just being one person, it's hard to do everything, it's hard to be the police chief and the mayor and and the cook and everything else in the gas station attendant. It's hard to do it all. Somebody's got to do everything.
Yeah.
And this really allows me a chance to really just focus in on making the music and playing it.
And what was that like for you? Because again, being in Slaughter all these years, and even going back to Vinnie Vincent, Dana's kind of been your main partner in crime all these years, and you did the bulk of the songwriting with him, and you guys produced everything, and you made all the decisions together pretty much. And now doing your solo thing now, Mark Slaughter, you're the guy writing, majority of the tunes, everything, like you said, it's all your decision making. What's that been like for you? Kind of, you're doing everything.
Well, there's certain things that I wouldn't do that would be Slaughter, but I think that's the difference of Slaughter to this.
Yeah.
There might be things that I might take liberties that I wouldn't take in Slaughter. And again, I think people are more forgiving to go a little bit further out, and further left and right in music, and really try to bounce it off into different sides instead of just one thing. You're able to take those liberties,
And that's part of the point of.
I think that's what people hear.
Yeah, that's part of the point of being a solo artist. Like you said, if you just want to do new Slaughter music, you put out a new Slaughter CD. But that's not what this is. And so, like you said, it allows you kind of stretch your wings a little. That's got to be a great thing as an artist to be able to do.
Yeah, I think that I really feel it more as a guitar player than I do anything because in Slaughter I'm focused towards being a sound front man instead of that. And this, I'm wearing a lot of hats. I'm engineering, I'm producing, I'm writing, I'm really doing a lot of stuff as opposed to just focusing on being a lead singer.
Yeah, that's.
Again, each one has its advantages and the beauty of doing it, but to me, this has really been a wonderful, thing to be able to get back and play guitar and just have fun and again, it's just enjoying making music.
And and even going back to Slaughter, you've always had another guy in the band like either Tim Kelly or Jeff Lando to play the guitar parts with. And so what's that been like for where you're kind of a lone wolf?
Well, I think it's a little easier because I don't have to. It's not I just do it as opposed to what do you think? And there's people making us. I just do it and I don't think about it. And I think that there's a spontaneity that happens that way. That that you have to conform to make it all work as a band.
Yeah.
And when you're doing it on your own, you just kind of do it and go, okay, that's cool.
And so as far as the new CD, Mark, I was curious, did you record everything in the same studio? Did you record it there in Nashville? Did, different guys come and do their parts separate?
I recorded everything here except for the drums, and those are recorded over where Steve Lukather does his stuff, which is called the Steakhouse in Los Angeles.
Wow.
And that's where the drums were cut, and that's also where it was mixed.
And now, were all these tunes that are on the new album, are these newly written tunes that were written specifically for this album?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were written. It was also written to be vinyl, so it's there's also a little bit different side of this is a vinyl record, and being that being a record, I'm thinking of it when I threw some songs off the record because I'm trying to make it fit on vinyl.
Wow.
And there's a different way of doing it when you're doing it on vinyl because it won't all fit unless you're doing a 2-record set.
Yeah.
And I'm not interested in doing that. I just want to put out one record that plays front to end that has a vibe.
Wow.
I think that. Now, have you heard anything yet?
Well, so far I've only heard the new single, Hey You, which I thought kind of reminded me, it sounded like it could have been on something off of Stick It To You, so I was really impressed with the first, track there. So I think
I think you'll really dig where it's going and where the music is beyond that. I mean, it's all over the place, and there's a lot. Of course, it still sounds like the way I sing is the way I sing. So you can certainly tell it's me, but there is a difference in this because it's just thrown together so quickly and on the vocally, and then the guitar tones and everything else. I really took a lot of time to make sure it was right, make sure that it had the things that I was looking for.
Now, when you say it was thrown together rather quickly, because I was surprised, just a couple of weeks ago of getting this press release about, Mark Slaughter putting out a new solo CD, in May 26th. And I thought, wow, and I heard nothing about the being signed to EMP label group until this press release came out, and I thought, wow, how exciting! So did kind of a record the record deal kind of come your way, and you thought, oh boy, I better get some stuff together?
Well, no, I had probably 3/4 of it done, and then I was talking to Tom. Tom talked to Universal. Really, it was a Japanese deal that really pushed it forward. because Dave has Universal in Japan
Yeah.
is his label. You know, that's the label that is, you know, would be a sub-label
Yeah.
there. And he reached out to Japan and played them two tracks off the record, and they were like, we
Yeah.
want it. So it was kind of like, well, why don't we do it in the United States too, and you know, make it easy. So
Yeah.
it was kind of one of those things. Again, the reaction, you know, just on that side of it, they never even heard the rest of the record. You know?
Wow. Yeah.
The rest of the record is freaking. I mean, I'm blown away with how well it's turned out. It was with the small amount of time
Yeah.
of pushing it all together.
Yeah, you know, and I'll be honest with you, Mark. Like I said, I've only heard the one track so far, but just based on the one track, you know, the one single, it's like, man, I'm counting the days till May 26th. You know, I can't wait to hear the rest of the album. And even going back to the last solo album, you know, I got to tell you, I was not disappointed when I picked it up because, you know, it did not sound like a carbon copy of Slaughter. It sounded like Mark Slaughter doing his thing, and it sounded like a modern rock album. You know, you weren't kind of trying to go too far out of, you know, your comfort zone, so to speak. Yeah,
exactly.
And it all fit, and so I think if that's any indication, and based on the one single, you know, I think I can't. I'm just speaking for myself. I can't wait to hear the rest of it. So, how many songs are on the new album? Is it 11 or is it 12 tunes?
It's 10 songs.
Okay.
Total, and you know, some of it's really heavy, and some of it is it's really got a lot of retro tonalities to it.
Okay, yeah.
Meaning that, you know, I played a Fender Rhodes piano on it. You know,
wow.
I really went into some stuff that I normally, you know, I wouldn't get out of it with the Slaughter stuff. I would kind of stick to traditional this or that, and you know, I really got into some old, you know, tones and guitar tones that I think that are more of the classic rock sensibility than that.
Wow. And I got to ask you, because, you know, like I said, I love all the Slaughter CDs that you guys ever put out. I even love some of the later day stuff. I mean, one of my favorite all-time tracks, I just think is really underrated. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the track, Course from Revolution, track 1, American Pie. To me, that just had such a great groove, and I could never understand, you know, why it didn't get more airplay.
Well, I think it was also a different time. I think that, you know, it was very, and again, that was kind of going towards the retro stuff. It was very T-Rex-ish, very, you know, late 60s, early 70s.
Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of people were really, I don't think they understood that was us.
Yeah.
Again, most people expect a certain thing out of me as a vocalist.
Yeah. So that was kind of Slaughter kind of taking some chances, and it maybe didn't pan out. But, you know, you guys have also put out some great you know ballads and music videos over the years. I mean, one of my favorite tracks you guys ever did was the one off the Wildlife, Days Gone By, which I know you guys was a tribute to both Eric Carr and Freddie Mercury. I mean, some of that stuff. I mean, you still hear it on the radio all these years later, and it's just as great as ever.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and
you know, again, it's really one of those things that I think that, you know, for us, you know, look, we have a love for music. We have a love for the artists that influenced us. I mean,
of course.
Carr influences. We rubbed elbows with him every day on the Kiss tour.
Yeah.
What a great guy. Freddie Mercury, Queen. Look, I think you're going to hear some stuff on here and go, oh my God, that's so clean.
Yeah.
It has some of those elements. And so did Days Gone By, though. It's not like I'm running to something that people go, why is he doing that now? He never did that. Well, I kind of did. It's just now I'm doing it all by myself.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, there's elements of that stuff in there, and that's another reason I brought up that track, because you know, you guys, you're very underrated. Also, I think keyboard player, because I know you play keyboard on many of the songs in the albums, but you know, I kind of dig that stuff. I don't know about some of these people that say, you know, keyboards suck in that, but I've always been a fan of keyboards, you know.
I think that there's a place for it if it's done properly.
Yeah.
I mean, I just did an interview with the Guitar World magazine. They said that some of the stuff they heard, because they heard a couple other tracks, and they said it sounds very November Rain-like.
Wow.
And I say, well, more clean than November Rain. But again, it's just that epic thing. And I think that's really where I'm trying to go with some of this stuff. It's very epic proportion, and not just, me just, hey, by the way, here's my demo. Hope you like it. I'm not doing what a lot of artists do. I'm really trying to make it so the record has its thing.
Yeah. And now let me ask you, Mark. When you go in to record stuff, do you typically just write go in the studio with the intent of, okay, I'm gonna write just 10 or 11 tracks for a new album, or do you ever have an abundance of material left over? Maybe like you said, you go in and demo stuff that maybe didn't make the record for. Is there a Mark Slaughter vault?
Yeah. There's a lot. I mean, look, it's just kind of like what Prince had. Yeah. I mean, it's just like one of those things. Yeah, I have songs that I've started and haven't done,
and would you ever put in that stuff out there just for let the fans hear it, or is your kind of thought process, well, if it wasn't good enough to end up on an album, then we'll just kind of keep it in the vault?
Yeah, I don't know. Some of this stuff will find its way, but a song is a song. Yeah. And if I'm holding on to it, it's odd to say I'm holding on to it for a reason. Either it didn't fit in the body of work of this. Yeah. Meaning, sometimes you're in a different place, and sometimes that music, this album has a different vibe of it's a little darker than I would normally do. But that's okay, because I've been through some tragedies in the last couple of years. I lost both my parents.
Wow.
And life is it's not always
rosy,
not always perfect.
And it's like they say, when you put out a new album, it's kind of like these songs are the latest chapter of my life, so to speak, and this is what I've been going through the last few years. Yeah. It's all good. Now let me ask you, because obviously you made the point that the music industry and everything's a lot different than it was in 1990 when "Stick It to You" first came out. But and I've read several interviews where the other guys don't really want to do an album. But is there any chance, Mark, because Slaughter is still touring, you guys still have a huge fan base, any chance we might get a live concert DVD or anything like that down the line, do you think?
We might do it, but I think it would have to be something in a place that really was
special,
monumental, instead of Joe Blow's, or this casino or that. I'd rather have it to where it was something that meant something for everybody, little people, than just the average.
Yeah, and another song that's always been a huge hit for Slaughter, and it really, I know, has taken on a kind of a new life of its own, is "Flight of the Angels." I mean, again, and just preparing to talk to you today, I was kind of thinking, next year it's hard to believe it. Tim Kelly's past, will have it'll be the 20th anniversary of his death next year, and it's kind of hard to believe it. He's been gone that long.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Again, you don't think about these things.
Yeah.
But it is. It's very difficult. I mean, even for us till this day, it's like I feel like we lost him yesterday.
Yeah, and and one reason I bring it up, because it's amazing, when you stop and think about, the fact that, Tim played on those first 4 Slaughter albums, but and even though he's been, he passed away almost 20 years ago, just the impact what he did on those four Slaughter albums, I think is, amazing.
Yeah, it is definitely. There's some classic.
Yeah, and then I was also reading in the press release I got about the new solo CD that Slaughter's actually going to be doing some touring with Rat in Japan, shortly after your solo CD comes out. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, there's, we know the Rat guys for a lot of years. We're doing some stuff with them. I think Poison's going to be doing some other dates outside of their tour with Def Leppard, which we'll jump on.
Yeah.
And obviously we're off doing, shows everywhere. Where are you based out of?
I'm based out of Long Beach, near Los Angeles, California.
Right. Yeah, California is one of those places that, as far as the band, I don't know what it is, but it's been less than in California than probably other parts of the world, because it's just, we did the show last year at the Hair Nation Festival, which was, sold out, and it did incredibly well. But it's kind of it's an odd market there.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. That's the one thing I love about the internet. I think, like if you're, you may have trouble finding, the new Mark Slaughter CD in a lot of the record stores, but if you're a big enough Mark Slaughter fan, I think, you'll go to Mark Slaughter's website, you'll go to Amazon, do whatever you have to do to get the album. If somebody's a big enough fan, I think they'll go out there and support the artists they love.
Well, I appreciate it. Look, these songs have there's a lot of heart in them, and I think that, again, just like Slaughter, there's a song value here, and that's the most important part.
Yeah.
It's not just about me having a yaya as a guitar player. This really is one of those things of really making music of songs that will stick in people's lives a long time.
Well, see, I think that's why. I mean, again, going back to all those great Slaughter tunes, you and Dana had such a great, chemistry, working together, writing those tunes, but I think, I'm a song guy like you, Mark, where a lot of the songs I grew up on, they're from guys that tell, are great storytellers. Even somebody like, Rod Stewart. You listen to the Slaughter CDs. You guys are telling, you're telling stories, things that you've actually, lived through and experienced. And like you said, it's more than just, making love in the backseat of a car, or whatever, or
right.
I want to rock and roll, whatever. They're actually, true stories. And I think that's why these songs have lasted so long. I think that's why your fans have reacted to the music the way they have. And I know it's getting late where you are, Mark, so I promise we'll wrap this up. I just had a few more questions. Another thing, I loved all the great Slaughter music videos. Of course, like we said, the music industry is not what it used to be, but is there any chance that you may do a video for one or two of the tracks?
I probably will. It's just kind of one of those things, this thing, because of Japan picking this record up so quick. It was like one of those things we really didn't even think about some of the some of those sides of it. We just kind of rushed to get this thing mixed and got it. Basically, it's going to print right now.
Yeah.
It's kind of it's happening pretty quick. So I would think that we'll do something. I don't know what we'll do, but something will happen someplace down the line. And
see, I think again that just speaks volumes about what a talented guy you are. The fact that you don't even need a music video that like you said, Japan's responded so quickly to the album, and it's being printed up. And are you getting a lot of pre-orders that people started pre-ordering it?
Yeah, the pre-orders are going great, and there's also going to be vinyl, which is, again, that was one of the staples of what I wanted to do with this, is make sure that it was fit on vinyl.
Yeah,
25% of the sales now.
Yeah. I'm amazed.
It's nice to do a record on my own.
Yeah,
It literally is a solo record. It really is one.
And I'm amazed to see that vinyl has made such a huge comeback for the last couple of years. But I think it's a great thing, because I'm probably about the same age as you, Mark. And when I grew up, they did still have vinyl records. They did have CDs and cassettes, and I still love. I still love holding a physical CD in my hand, looking at the artwork, reading the liner notes, reading the credits, who wrote the songs. Kids today, they miss that experience of going to the record store. A lot of kids like, what's a record store? What's a record? It's great to be able.
Now the kids are spearheading a new movement right now, which is the coolest part of it. You know, my kid's one of those kids. I have a 19-year-old kid who's got more vinyl than I do.
Wow.
It's cool. It's really cool.
And now, have any of your kids shown an interest in wanting to go the route of you, Mark, and kind of do music?
I think they have music in them. My youngest, Eli, he plays bass and does that. And my oldest, he sings, but he's not applying himself to it.
Wow.
They could someday if they wanted to. I'm just not pushing it right now because, it's kind of a weird market, a weird business, and, unless they have a love for it, want to do it on their own, they'd have to come back up to me and say, look, I want to do this. And
now, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't some of the kids appear on the last solo CD?
Yeah, they did. And this one they were pretty much both out of the house. So,
wow.
There is no, they're gone.
And,
again, that's part of one of the songs halfway there. It's even a part of it. It's they're off doing things
their thing.
In the world, and, but it's all good. We all grow and
it's just a part of life. And then another thing I know you were doing for a few years was you also had a very successful career, like doing voiceovers. Is that something you're still doing?
I used to, but I just got to the point where it's just, quite honestly, it's, you have to be in California.
Yeah.
And you have to, be on the 101, the 405, or et cetera, just to fight it out, and that's part of it. You have to physically be there.
Yeah.
And, I'm really in this really nice, beautiful little bubble out here in Tennessee where I make music, I'm creative, and, like right now I'm, building a guitar.
Wow.
Just because I love to. I'm doing it for the love of things instead of, I've got to do this to make money. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and see, that's got to be a nice place to be in life, where you're doing it because you love to, not necessarily because you have to.
Right, exactly.
And you're doing what you love doing. That's got to be a great thing. Now, do you ever? I know you're mostly in Nashville these days, but do you ever get a chance to go to your other hometown of Las Vegas? Because that's another town that's really turned into the music.
I still make it to Vegas a couple times a year, and it's old home, but. That's changed a lot too. It's not the same old town that it used to be.
No, it
really has grown a lot.
A lot of LA guys have just moved there, and they like I think Jizzy Pearl's there, and he kind of just I know Blas is there, and he's still with the Blue Man Group, and a lot of these guys they just kind of do their gigs, their hometown of Vegas, and I think it's really great to see what that's turned into.
Yeah, I mean it is, and I'm glad that that Blas is still playing, and he's a great player. And, look, there's a lot of talent everywhere.
Yeah. And talk about the
trying to find a place where we make our music and do what we love to do. And certainly this is a good place for me to be there, and it's a good place for a lot of those other rockers that move to Las Vegas. It's good for them. You gotta find a place that works for you.
Yeah, you got it.
It has a good airport you can fly in and out of.
There you go. And talk a little bit about the current Slaughter drummer Zoltan, because I know he also plays in Vince Neil's band, but I've seen some crazy like YouTube stuff of him doing drum solos and everything on YouTube. How did you guys first hook up with him?
That was through Blando. Blando knew him from the Orlando area.
Wow.
And he knew of him and knew what he did, and he's a good guy, real good guy, and he's been a lot of fun to play with, and certainly people are really enjoying his dancing.
Yeah, and the very last thing I wanted to kind of ask you about, Mark, is now with you being signed to EMP label group, can we expect future solo releases from you, or does it kind of depend on how well this one does?
I'll continue to make music regardless.
Yeah.
At some point there might be some Slaughter stuff, but right now it's just going to be me doing what I'm doing, and I think a lot of people, if they like Slaughter, I think there's going to certainly be a song or two that's going to bring back that Slaughter element, and it's certainly there. So, and
see, that's a great thing for
everybody.
Yeah, that's a great thing for fans like me. Like live in Los Angeles, like you're talking about, and Slaughter doesn't get a chance to play there too often. I can still go out and get the new Mark Slaughter CD and play it in my car, when I'm driving around town.
There you go. We love it.
Yeah, well, Mark, I could talk to you all day. You can tell I'm obviously a fan. It's been a real honor talking to you. So take care of yourself, my friend. Anytime you want to do this again, maybe.
Reach back out. Reach back out. Let me know what your thoughts are when you hear the song.
Yeah, I was going to say, I just might do that. Like, after I've had a chance to kind of live with the album, I'd like to kind of interview you, talk a little more about the specific songs on the album and everything.
Yeah, let's do that for sure. Consider it done.
Okay, take care, my friend. Bye-bye.
All right, thanks again. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, rock on.